The Economic and Financial Crime Commission, the FCC, says it has impounded 21 trucks suspected to be smuggling food and non-food items out of the country. In a statement on Tuesday, the anti-graft agency said the trucks were heading towards Unjunami, Chad Republic, Central African Republic, and Cameroon. The agency said the trucks were intercepted in a sting operation at the major exit route along Kalabiri, Gumbaru, Ngala, and Bama Road in Borno State. Investigation showed food items were cleverly concealed in the truck that would have gone undetected but for the eagle-eyed vigilance of operatives of the commission. The statement reads, the arrest of the truck is expected to stem the tide of food insecurity occasioned by unscrupulous antics of smugglers across the country. Also on Tuesday, the Controller General of the Nigerian Customs Service, Bashiru Adeniyi, while disclosing the measure being enforced to ensure that food security at the House of Representatives in Abuja, said that the service had within 2 weeks arrested about 120 trucks smuggling food items from Nigeria to Niger Republic, Chad, and also said that Mr. President has given the directive that the arrested truck be diverted to the local market in the area where they were arrested to force down the price of grains and other food items. All of this is happening at a time Nigeria seems to be experiencing one of the most difficult times in their history, with untold hardship driving many into despair, with the government being told to do more to save Nigerians from the challenges being faced by them, and most especially that of hunger. But the big question or the big story for today is what needs to be done apart from intercepting these trucks to desist those smugglers from acting the way they do, and what can really bring about a true food security in the country. Well, this and more is what this edition of The Big Story is all about, as we continue to talk about hardship in Nigeria and the smuggling of foodstuffs out of the country. And that's what we're having as a major discourse today on The Big Story. We're still looking at the hardship being experienced by lots, millions and millions of Nigerians that are going through one of the most difficult times in the history of this country, and looking at that problem that concerns smuggling of foodstuffs out of the country. But anyway, he's not here to smuggle out the discussion or smuggle it in. He's rather here to help us deal with the issues. And I'm talking of no other person but Comrade Emeka Nwokocha of the Civil Society for Good Governance in the country. Good morning and welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, good day, Mr. Mike.
Well, I just really want to go straight to it. 171 trucks have so far been intercepted in the last 1 month in the country. And even having the FCC now a part of dealing with the issue of food smuggling out of the country, which many will say, well, it's one out of many, and the first in many. But anyway, I'm being forced to ask. We used to have foodstuff being smuggled into the country. Now we're having it smuggled out of the country. What do you feel is the reason for this? As much as I also would love to get your reaction as it concerns the interception and seizures of this truck.
Yes, you know, the question you just asked as wanting to know what might be responsible for persons, you know, smuggling food out of this country at this critical time.
Yes.
You know, the mindset of the businessman, you know, cannot be totally interpreted and predicted.
Or understood.
The mindset of the businessman. You don't know where he thinks he could make more profit. Because one of the drivers of wanting to take a product from one location to another might be the possibility to maximize profit. Okay? But in as much as you cannot fault any businessman, you know, to like
take the opportunity,
leverage any opportunity to making money, but the government must be able to have the institutions, must be able to have the policies, must be able to have the laws that will guide the activities and operations of humans
in the country.
So when you err, when you veer off course, the law will whip you into line. So the Nigerian Customs Service, the Nigerian Immigration Service, and other security apparatus need to be up and doing, ensure that if government says we don't want food export either by smuggling or whatever means, they must hold it strongly, knowing fully well that this is a policy that the government has come to put in place, and you must not, change that, or rather undermine that policy, because your rule of engagement is to ensure that you do what the government has asked to do, and that's the reason you are wearing that uniform and you are representing the government in that capacity you are functioning. So the blame still goes to our security apparatuses across the line who have not been able to develop capacity to ensure that food is not exported, especially at this critical time. Because that commodity is so important that we have not been able to feed ourselves. Then let alone taking that large chunk of food out of the nation. So it's kudos to them that they're able to intercept that. But we're still going to tell them, both the custom, the Nigerian immigration, the EFCC, the police, and other security agencies to do what? To have an eagle eye, to be patriotic, to understand, the situation we find ourselves now, that these policies must be implemented to the letter and ensure that the little food we have been able to produce in this country is being consumed by Nigerians. We don't have enough to be exporting now.
You've made that point clear, but I'm just still a bit curious. Now, asking about or telling you or us talking about the impact of this smuggling is like asking the obvious. We do know it's bringing nothing but untold hardship still to Nigeria that are going through a lot. But my curiosity still remains. I just can't get my head around it. Now, you have a country of more than 200 million persons that has the largest economy on the continent, which is Nigeria. So naturally, it's only common sense that you have the market here. But now you are now smuggling this food to neighboring countries that have little or less resources as we do have, and even less number of persons as we do have. So it still remains, what is the motive of this smuggling? Yes, you did say profit margin, but come on, the profit is here. So I'm still a bit curious about trying to understand why the smuggling is still going on. 200 million persons. So we're not even having enough to feed, and yet you're taking it out. And even if you sell here, knowing that we still have the biggest economy, you make a profit. So I really I can't get my head around the reason why they seem to be doing this.
Yes. Just if you recall, when I did my first presentation, that the businessman's mindset is such, how do I put it, that you cannot actually, understand how he reasons. But one of the critical factors, that would influence the action of the businessman is how to maximize profit. And again, the demand, as it were, we're only mentioning food, and we don't even know the type of food. If there are grains,
more like grains,
I could not tell you that industries are more in demand of grains. If there are grains, you don't know whether the N'Djamena, which is capital of Nigeria, thereabout, whether the industries there are in need of this seriously. And down here, the agricultural value chain, has not been fully maximized. Added value to the agricultural product has not
it's just like
in this part of this country.
It at home, in this part of this country,
what we use once you produce, sell we sell. We don't have cottage industries to maximize, to add value to our agricultural produce. So if in N'Djamena or other countries have these cottage industries, that can change this raw materials and bring other products thereabout. So the demand there now will be very, very high to get these grains as the raw materials from Nigeria. And your shy businessman will be willing to do that because they are going to gain more than what they will gain when they begin to retail in Nigeria here. So that is a factor. But having said that, no matter whatever reason they may bring on board. The fact is that the nation must have a policy that says we must feed ourselves before you can now export the excess. Because the way it is now, it's obvious that Nigeria cannot feed itself. Because the cost of food items is so high that the average Nigerian worker cannot even afford a meal a day. So it's so critical that any person that goes, exporting our food, either legal or illegally, does not have the interest of the nation at heart, and he is anti the progress of this country, because it's supposed to be a national cause. We're all supposed to be concerned about what is happening to us in this country now, and we're supposed to come collectively and think collectively to cushion and to solve it, right? But when that patriotism is not there, that is when some persons, will not even mind whether their brothers have been fed, right? They don't even care. All they want is what I want to get out of it.
Maximize.
And that action of self, over wanting to satisfy your own, not thinking about the generation of the people, has always been our undoing. It has always been the albatross in this country. So that narrative must have to change. So the government must try and be conscious to wed the big stick, and the laws as it were in Nigeria must be made to be actionable, to be made to be seen working, not just on paper. So the security apparatuses or operatives, as you may call them, must strengthen their work. They must be on guard now to ensure that our foods are not, taken out of this country either through the road, through the forest, because as I am made to understand, our borders are so porous. I will have so many borders that are obviously poorly manned. So if we could begin to cut that, then government begin to look at it from another angle, injecting other ideas into how to address the food insecurity. Before you know, if it in a short period of time, don't be surprised that we'll be having a very, pleasant result.
Well, I'm pleased with you giving us hope on this.
Yes.
I'm happy about that.
We will.
If you mean if the government sits up and does the needful.
To do the needful.
Now, still talking about the government,
yes.
And because I want us to still remain there. Now, when Vice President Kashim Shettima last month came out to say that they discovered about 32 smuggling routes alone in Sokoto State, many felt he was just talking to get excuse on why there was hardship in the country. That's what many felt. Because he was responding to the food shortage or food crisis in the country when he made that remark. Now, but here now we are with reality. And we're now getting most of these trucks intercepted. But let's change the narrative and look at, you talked about profit, but let's look at the profit now. Let's come there. As of this morning, I was opportune to check the Nigerian Naira against the Cameroon CFAs. And it's about 1,000 Naira to 384.18 CFA. And many feel that this disparity between the values of both currency is the pure motive for this smuggling route and scheme to still exist. So my question now is, if the Naira constantly lose face against the CFA, are we going to see further smuggling, irrespective of what the government seems to be doing? So are we going to see more of it? Because, come on, look at it. Yes, you did say the motive for the smuggling is all about maximizing profit and taking the opportunity. But when we constantly see the Naira lose face, are we not very in for a very long ride as it concerns the smuggling?
Obviously, you've just said it. The mindset of the businessman is just how to maximize profit. You will recall when Nigeria Naira was, the value was high across the African sub-region. I was told that if you're able to go to Ghana, if you're able to go to Benin, Togo, with your few naira. You know, you see them coming around you, you know, miling around you, you know, to ask for your naira.
Okay, that was then.
Everybody values you. And that was the reason then, this second-hand clothes and other clothes, you know, then, you know, became a very lucrative business for Nigerians. Because they go there, they buy the things very cheap with few naira. Then when they bring it in here, through the smuggling route, even when those goods are contraband,
and we're being seized.
you cannot see every day, every month, custom declares, you know, this is how many you have seized, the quantity you have seized. And as of then, and it continues because the businessman has seen the profit margin in that business. He will do everything humanly possible to untwist the law, to untwist those behind the law, to untwist the implementers of the law, to ensure that he gets his way. He's so dogged and committed when it comes to business angle, not minded. But then, the tide is changing now. Our naira is fast losing its value. Why those countries, you know, currencies are firming up, and even better. So you now see now that, you know, the line of business is not changing. People are now, we now, not even going to get the goods now. Rather, we are not taking our goods now to chase, to get those powerful currencies to make more money. So it's always how the business, you know, trend runs. So you cannot blame it on the man who is smuggling. You will blame it on the country, the security operative, because if the loopholes are not there,
it will not work.
It will not work. There's nothing wrong in you know, coming up with ideas to smuggle. But the policies are so put in place, and the people behind the policies are so committed that you may not find a loophole. Having conceived the idea, it dies in your mind, you cannot implement it. So the man who is wanting to commit crime, you cannot tell him to commit crime because you are not in his mind. But if he does commit that crime, the security operatives, you know, put in ground will be able to do what? To catch up with you. So it might end at that incubation stage. They may not be able to carry out that act. But why we have seen what we are saying is that to a very large extent, the porosity of our border is even more mind-boggling than what the analysis you have just read out. Our borders are so porous. They are poorly manned. Not that you cannot man it. It all demands, you know, political will. Because if we're a sovereignty, and you see the Nigerian map drawn, right, and you see the landmass, the size, which you may not be willing to give out to any country, you should be able to have the capacity to do what? To police your territory. Because no aspect, no arm, no part of it, you know, should not be properly manned. Because that actually gives it the integrity, that actually makes you a sovereignty. But when you do not have the political will, perhaps resulting from poor governance that we have seen over the years in this country, so it tends to permeate every sector. So that's the reason we are now saying that our borders are so porous, though there shouldn't be any excuse why our borders will be porous. And when the borders are porous, these smugglers see it as
an opportunity.
As an opportunity to carry out the nefarious act of smuggling. And more so, not only that, have you talked about the corruption within the circle? Because obviously in every parastatal, government parastatal, corruption is endemic. So endemic that even the persons who are to implement the laws, when money exchange hands, they look the other way. So to a very large extent, you know, we are a country that have found ourselves in a situation where, you know, we need to pull the structures and start to rejig it, start to reshape it, start to reform it to suit what we actually need. And every person, wherever you find yourself, must be a contributor. You must be committed. You must make a commitment as in, yes, I believe in this entity called Nigeria. I believe in this brand called Nigeria. And I am going to discharge my duties to promoting this entity and promoting the entity. So if we could, in our small cocoons, agree as one nation to pilot our country and defend our sovereignty and integrity of this country, definitely everything will shape in well. But the Republic officer, you know, go about with this understanding, with this mindset, forget how beautifully kitted he might look when he's deployed to his beat. But what it does, does it reflect the integrity, the patriotism that, you know, he was employed or recruited
to do?
So that is always where the problem is. So if we could now fix it and have the right people at the right places, at the right borders, I want to tell you, the issue of smuggling, you know, will fizzle into the thin air. You will hear it again.
But anyway, I need to tell you also that we need to go on a break now, and we'll come back and talk some more as it concerns the hardship in the land. And we're looking at the issue of smuggling, especially with recent interception, sting operation by the FCC. Many will say, has it come to that we're having the Economic and Financial Crime Commission also a part of dealing with the issue of smuggling? Come on, what seems to be happening? That is now the other way around, having goods being smuggled from Nigeria out of the country to neighboring countries that have lesser market, as we say, and lower population than ours, rather than having them taken to a place that they can easily make that money and get a lot from it. Let's go on a break.